All right. So for those of you who are with now watching live, as well as anyone who may later be watching the replay, this is my first official blab. And so I'm going to kind of have to learn as I go as far as all the different things that are involved with that. And I'm certainly hoping for those of you that are with, if you can, tweet out that this is going on right now, that'd be fantastic. And I don't have a co-host tonight. I'm going to kind of see how it goes without having a co-host, and maybe I'll have to have someone help out later. For those of you who may be joining in that are familiar with my story and some of the more specific details regarding the story, in the chat box and stuff, I would just prefer not to list any like specific details, just more for like privacy reasons, because I'm going to presume that Crazy Pants will at some point be watching this show. And so I just want to kind of like keep safety and privacy in mind. I do realize I'm taking a little bit of a risk with doing this. However, it's more important to me that I have the ability to share this story in hopes of helping other people, whether that's someone who's going through it themselves, possibly a parent who has a child being cyberbullied, or whatever the situation may be. So for me, it's more beneficial that I share my story with the hopes of helping someone else than it is for me to worry about the fact that I know she'll likely watch this at some point. Because short of physical violence, there's really not much left that she can possibly do to me at this point. And after 3 years of essentially having this havoc wreaked on my life in like 100 million different ways, I'm choosing not to allow her to continue determining exactly what I do with regards to this situation. Okay, so now that my little preamble is out of the way, I want to thank everyone again for joining in. And if you know someone who needs help because they're being cyberstalked, cyberbullied, by all means, I'll help out as much as possible. So a little bit about my backstory, because it's very important to know how I got here in order for future shows to lay the groundwork as far as what's happened and how maybe I would have done things differently, or maybe advice that I'd give someone else now knowing what I do after being 3 years. So topic for tonight's show is specifically, it can happen to anyone. And in order to illustrate this, I do have to share like my particular story with how it came to be that I have spent almost $13,000, maybe over $13,000 in attorney's fees, as well as just like how far reaching this has impacted my life. So back in in late 2012, or maybe even mid 2012, there was a gentleman that I'm just friends with on Twitter. I've built my business. I'm a virtual assistant and I provide bookkeeping services to people. And so for me, it's incredibly important that I build relationships because I'm virtual and I can work with anyone, anywhere throughout the United States. And one of the ways, my favorite social network has always been Twitter. I have met so many fantastic people as a direct result of just general chit chat that started taking place on Twitter. And for me, like that's been my quote unquote marketing area. That's what I absolutely love. And part of just who I am as a person is I'm just incredibly friendly, and I'm pretty inclusive with, just general chit chat. And for those I allow in my circle, just because I'm friendly with someone by no means indicates that there's a relationship, a romantic relationship, I should say in this particular case, or anything of that nature. And so what I believe happened is that a gentleman that I was just talking to on Twitter, just me being friendly, started dating a woman. And he dated her, from the best I can tell with regards to like the documentation that's available, I believe he only dated her for approximately 3 weeks. I don't know how many times they saw each other or anything of that nature. I just strictly know that for a very brief moment in time, the two of them were in some type of relationship. She apparently started researching all the different individuals that he spoke to, and Twitter, obviously, like super public, super easy to see. And I happened to be one of those individuals that was talking to him on Twitter. And so I don't know, she researched me. I don't know exactly what her story was. I don't know why she possibly thought that I was a threat, but I believe she certainly came to the conclusion that I was some type of threat to this starting romantic relationship that she had with him. And she probably really, really, really researched me prior to the first time she sent me a message. And I say that based on a couple of different things. What I know for a fact is that on December 12th of 2012 is the very, very first time that I got a message from her on Facebook, and the account that she sent the message from was created on August 25th. So I'm not saying she started to research me on August 25th. What I'm saying is there's proof the account was created on August 25th, and that on December 12th, she sent me a message. As quote unquote luck would have it, I didn't even see those messages from 2012 until 2014 because Facebook sent them to my spam inbox. And therefore, I never ever saw them. And it was purely accidental that I ever did end up even finding those messages. The first time I became aware of messages that she was sending me was on Twitter, and that was towards the end of June of 2013. So from December of 2012 to June of 2013, God only knows how much research she put into, I don't know. I don't know what she all figured out at that time. Without a doubt, she certainly saw that I was talking to this individual. She knew I owned a business and whatever else she possibly found out on the internet. And so for approximately 6 months, I didn't even realize the danger that I was in. I was sharing things on social media networks, Foursquare, Twitter, Facebook. I would think that those would probably be the three main ones: Twitter, Facebook, and Foursquare. I was sharing things on there that I would have never, ever shared had I known that there was someone out there who was going to later try to destroy my life. So June 2013, because we'll kind of fast forward since I didn't even find the 2012 messages. In March of 2013, so this is in the middle of the December 2012 to June of 2013, in that time frame, it just so happened that the gentleman in question, and for purposes of this show, I'm just going to refer to him as Will because that's referred to him as on my blog, and Will is not his real name. I just happen to really like The Good Wife, and the main character that got killed off last season or whatever, his name was Will. So that's why I'm picking Will, because I like The Good Wife. So Will happened to get sent by his job for a conference on the same in Florida, which is where I lived at the time. And he was on the totally opposite coast. And he asked, hey, would you like to get together for dinner? And as some of you who are actually on this show know, because we've been friends for a while, and maybe people who will watch this later, I absolutely love meeting up with people that I've met on Twitter. And I'm not meeting up with all these people on Twitter because I have a romantic interest in them. I just genuinely care about making genuine connections with people. And so kind of my rule of thumb is if you're within 3 hours of me, I will drive and meet you. Tommy, I love dinner. I like food, not just dinner. And so when he sent that message to me and said, hey, would you be interested in meeting for dinner? I said, absolutely, yes. Why wouldn't I? Because this is one of the things that I just absolutely love with people. And we had been talking offline, like off internet, like on the phone, long before he ever actually met this woman. in person. And we had developed a genuine friendship. And so we weren't just really Twitter friends. We just happened to live on opposite coasts, and we had never had the opportunity to actually meet in person and hug or have dinner or whatever. So I said yes, I would meet him. And he had already filled me in that he had like a crazy dating situation going on. But because we were friends and he's a funny guy, I totally thought that these stories he had been telling me, I totally thought that they were fake. I did not believe that they were true real life stories. And so we get to dinner and I bring up like, how are things going with like your crazy dating stories or whatever? And something that I said, he realized that I was, I didn't believe that they were real. Even then, and of course, like, because we just chat, we just chat every once in a while, I didn't realize like the extent of just what like lay ahead of me. And after that night in Tampa for dinner, we had some general chit chat. I had told him about Dropbox during our conversation. We talked about a couple other like little techie tools and stuff like that. And if I recall correctly, I had sent some tweet to him like afterwards saying like, oh, like remember to check out Dropbox or something like that. And of course, going back to what I just said before, I didn't even realize that she had actually been researching me sometime prior to December of 2012. And so God only knows like what else I had said during that time frame. So somehow she figured out that the two of us went to Washington, D.C. together in June of 2013. And that also corresponds precisely with the dates that I actually really knew that she was messaging me. And I was able to put two and two together, for lack of better words. And so I guess like in one aspect, you could say like that's the day that really changed my life. But even then, I didn't realize like just how challenging and difficult things were going to get as time, went by or has went by. So kind of like the moral of all of this is that the stuff that we put out like years ago, and Facebook, for those of you who are active on social media, like Facebook, we joke around like they change their things every 10 minutes. And sometimes what we intend to be private, we're really posting publicly, or we're posting things publicly, but not necessarily thinking about like the side effects it can have like down the road. And just for an example, because this happens to be like one of the things that immediately comes to mind, is when I first moved to Florida in July of 2010, I had had lunch with some friends of mine, and apparently I posted the pictures on Facebook. I don't remember, but I obviously must have posted them as public photos because in 2000, I want to say March of 2014, but I could be off because she sent me like over 1,200 like pieces of communication. So I can't remember the specifics of like each one, like how it came to me or necessarily like what the exact time frame was without looking at my records. But at some point in 2014, so 4 years probably after this photo was taken, she had found it at some point and she downloaded it and later tweeted that photo to me and one of the friends that was actually in the picture with some snarky, nasty note or something along those lines. And of course, I didn't realize that that photo had been out in public domain because I certainly didn't intend for it to be like something public to like say like where I was at. And it was probably just not paying attention to my privacy settings when I posted that particular post. And so going back to at the start of the show, I mentioned that this can happen to anyone. And hopefully you can see, like in my case, there's nothing I did. I never had direct contact with this woman. I never intentionally did anything that would have ever, ever, ever brought her into my life. Literally, the most I can say that I was at fault, and I'm not saying at fault in the true sense of, oh, like let's point fingers and blame someone, literally like the only thing that you could say is like, I was nice to someone on Twitter, and that someone that I was nice to happened to be a male, and it happened to be a male that she was interested in. There's nothing else that I did that should have ever brought this like craziness, absolute craziness into my life. And so for parents, obviously cyberbullying is a huge issue. It's very easy for children in particular, I think, maybe to not realize like the impact of their words on another individual. In this case, the woman that's after me, she's in her 50s. She's 53 or 54, something like that. I don't remember exactly. I know she had her birthday like recently. So in my case, this is not a child. This is someone who certainly should understand that her words that she types, the stuff that comes out of her fingertips and out of her twisted mind, like she certainly, her age indicates that she certainly should know better. And she should know that what she's doing is hurting other people. And in a lot of cases, what she's doing is incredibly deliberate. She has reported me to the FBI. She has caused me to lose one client, and not due to anything I did and all that stuff. But it was kind of a mutual thing, like just kind of like for the safety of like all parties involved, like that we were just going to kind of end things. I've let clients go because I needed the time to work in order to like basically dealing with a cyber stalker is a part-time job. And in some cases, some days it feels like a full-time job. Um, so, and it put me in a weird catch 22 because I needed money to pay attorney's fees, which meant I needed my clients. But on the other side of the coin, I needed to be able to free up time in order to deal with this pro bono, let's say, part-time job that I had. And so for parents that have children, because they may not, maybe they don't have the emotional capacity to like understand what they're doing to someone else, um, this could potentially become like a costly endeavor for parents who are interested in protecting their children. And the one thing that I hope that I can say now without like all the details being known and really like the true impact of what this is on an individual, I hope any parents who are watching this very first episode understand that the age old saying of sticks and stones can break my bones, but words won't hurt me, or however it goes, that's not true. And I know it's really noble for us to say as human beings, like, oh, those are just words, they're not going to hurt me. But I'm going to call bullshit on that, because what this woman has done to me, a lot of it is quote unquote just words, but it has had a huge impact on my emotional well-being, my ability to be a mother, because I'm scared about the fact that she's going to show up at my door at some point and possibly pull a gun on me and my son. So for any parents out there who may have problems with their children being bullied, please don't discount things by saying like, oh, don't worry about it, they're just words. Because I've had a lot of very well-meaning friends, and I'm trying really hard not to cry right now. I've had a lot of really, really well-meaning friends who say like, oh, don't worry about it, she lives on the other side of the country, she's not going to show up at your door. But you know what? No one can guarantee that to me. No one can say, you know what, Michelle, she's not going to show up at your door, because no one knows. And for people to discount that, like, it makes me feel as though I'm partially losing my mind. And I know I'm not losing my mind, and I know I'm a good person, and I know that I did nothing to deserve what she's doing to me. So for someone to say, oh, don't worry about it, like, and I know they mean well when they say that, but as a parent, I can't imagine being an adult and knowing how those words have impacted me, how they'd possibly impact a child who is not quite as emotionally mature as we are as adults. So for those of you watching, again, like, please, like, one of the best things you can do for someone that's going through this is, if they're an adult, just simply ask them, like, what can I do to support you? Sometimes we just need people to listen. Um, Maybe we want advice, maybe we don't. Um, so instead of saying, hey, don't let it bother you, the better question is, how can I support you? Because then you kind of put it back in that person's court for, there's something specific they need help with and they're willing to ask for help, like, you can, but at least you're not discounting their feelings inadvertently. And again, like, not intentionally. Sometimes it just happens. And for parents that may be in this situation trying to help their children, maybe the question isn't, how can I support you? Maybe it's, let's work on this together. I know someone I can talk to, or something like that. I mean, if I'm happy to help anyone that I possibly can. So I want people to know, like, I'm here to help if I can. I don't know all the answers because I'm 3 years into this situation for myself, and I still don't know what the motivation is behind the harassment. I don't know what's motivated her to contact the FBI or to file police reports against me, or contacting the Department of Justice or the Florida Attorney General. Like, there's so many crazy things that this woman has done. And for, I've racked my mind. The $1 million question is, why? Like, why is she doing this? Because I feel as though if I understand the why, I can figure out the how to make it stop. And I don't know that yet. And maybe I never will. Who knows? So that is enough, I think, for the whole, like, it can happen to anyone thing. Um, and I'm trying to, like, not get, like, sidetracked with, like, watching what's, like, happening, like, over in the chat box, but I really want to. So I'm going to take a moment real quick to see what's over in the chat box. And if anyone has any specific questions, or maybe they want to hop on to, like, add to this, it can happen to anyone, by all means, like, please, like, go ahead and request, like, hopping onto the seat, and I'd love to have you, like, weigh in. Wow, look at this. Go, Robin. Let Robin in here.
Hi, Michelle. I'm
Hey.
sending you tons and tons of hugs, okay? Just so you know. All right,
Thank
I'm
you.
not going to talk. You read on the side, okay? Because that's what you want to do.
Okay, you
I'm going to
talk.
talk.
I'm going to read.
So I want to share that Michelle is not I know Michelle personally. I've met her in real life. She's a wonderful and lovely person. And she's not the only person I know that something like this has happened to. I know some other people in our industry that this has happened to as well. And it's really, really sucky. And like Michelle was saying, for those of us that hasn't happened to, knock on wood, I don't think we can fully appreciate how scary it really is and how all encompassing it becomes in your life. And I say that knowing what I know from Michelle and the other people that I know this has happened to, that it really is a terrifying and such an unknowing thing. And Michelle talked about wanting to know why. And the thing is that people who do things like this, it's not logical their why. So there's a lot of people who are never going to understand it. Those people have stuff, right? And they need some help because it's just not fair to treat any person on the planet, whether it's online or offline, in that sort of capacity. Um, and I really do think what Michelle said, as far as saying, what can I do to help you? Or just, I'm sorry that you're going through this. That must really suck. Just acknowledging their pain and their suffering with it can really go so far. And I say this, Michelle, I know you're reading, but I know you're listening too. I was
I
I
am.
was at therapy today, and I was talking to my therapist about something that recently happened to me. Nothing on this kind of level, but I said something to someone in my family, and what I really needed was just some sympathy. I needed them to say, "That sucks. I'm so sorry you're having to deal with this," but I got something completely different. And I talked to my therapist about this, and they're like, the other person, they may not know what to do and stuff, but that's what Michelle's telling you. if you know somebody who's in a situation like this, just be sympathetic, empathetic with them, and just say, I'm so sorry that that's happening to you. Even if that's the only thing you can do, that would be so much better than saying, you're crazy, or how can that be happening, or what did you do to make this happen, or it's your fault, or anything like that. Please don't, even if it's in your head because you don't understand, don't say that to the victim. That sucks. Just try to be supportive of them.
I agree. If the sentence is going to start with "you should," probably just shouldn't say
Right.
it.
Did you get a chance to catch up on your reading?
Okay, so you are so much better at this whole blab thing than I am, Robin. So I have to ask your
Sure.
advice here. So I don't know how to like scroll up on
Are
the
you
messages.
on a computer or a phone? Okay,
Computer.
so it just put your mouse over in the right hand side and just scroll up. That's it. Do you have a wheel mouse that you
Okay.
can just scroll up with? It's okay.
Yeah, I do, but it's in the other
Okay.
room.
So I don't know how to do it without a scroll. However you scroll with your mouse, because this is the mouse I use and I have a little wheel on it, and it moves things.
Yes, and that's normally what I use too. I'm not a
That's
trackpad
that's
person.
that's okay. So Michelle, what you've missed over here on the side is
Thank
a
you.
lot of people sharing out on Twitter and Facebook. A lot of people. Tommy is giving you lots of love and support. Um, Lee Drozak saying you'll rock this. Marty is here and he's giving you all sorts of love and that. I believe Misty is, she knows the story and ugh, and it's scary and she gets that. Joseph says, yes, the right questions. How can I help? What can I do for you? And then Lee says,
I see the other one from Lee
okay, yeah.
after Joe.
Okay, so
I
that
think.
I just caught you up on what happened over there.
Yay! Thank
You're
you.
welcome. I am more than happy to help, Michelle, anytime.
You're a perfect person to like have here, and Tommy too. Although I don't know if he's here anymore. I think he might have dropped off because I know he was like in a
He
parking lot or
did. He did
something.
drop off. You can tell at the very top of the screen, those little
Yep.
circles. That's who's active live in the blab right now. You've had 100 viewers. There's 8 people currently here in the room, and those are who those circles are.
See, you're so smart. I need to like take blab
We
lessons
are
from
going
you.
to have some blab lessons coming up. Don't worry. It's happening. It's happening.
Good. Make sure I get
I
notified of
promise.
them.
I promise. But Michelle, I mean, you're really brave to come and tell the story, right? Because not everybody will. A lot of people will hide from stories like this because they do feel shame. And that's one of the things that I had said over in the comments is that you're the victim and you do not need to feel shame around this. But that's where, all things go with humans is that we go into the shame and vulnerability, and you're thinking, what did I do? What did I do? What did I do? You didn't do anything, Michelle. You didn't do anything wrong. You did not. Don't take the blame for this person and the people who are doing it to other people I know. It's that other person's stuff. It's not you. You are a wonderful, charming, lovely woman, and you didn't do anything to deserve this, to bring it on. And it's just not fair. It just really isn't.
And I think for me, and obviously there's some people who are on the show right now that like that they know firsthand what I'm referring to, is in addition to like not even so much the shame, I think there's a lot of guilt associated with things because I, the phrase I've used with people before is I feel as though I am a bomb, and that those who are close to me, like when I explode, not due to anything I've done, due to what she does, what she directs, is that inadvertently, like the people I care about are going to be hit by the shrapnel. And there are a number of you who are on this show right now who have gotten the messages from her about me. Robin, you're one of them. Like she's done it to you. Misty and Marty are definitely on that list. Lee's definitely on that list. And so I feel guilt when my crazy pants contacts those who I care about.
Don't.
And there was another friend of mine who recently said, you know what, like those who know, and they still stand behind you. And those who don't know, like they're never going to know or whatever. And therefore, like they don't matter. And she's not saying that these people don't matter in life, because absolutely, without a doubt, they matter. What she's saying is that their opinion of of me essentially doesn't
Right.
matter. And I guess I have to do that.
It's Michelle, I cannot imagine how hard this is to go through. I really cannot. You know a little bit about my life, and I have a lot of crazy things happening in it. Um, and you know, the grass is always greener, and we kind of look at other people and go, "Oh my gosh, how could they do that? You know, how can they live with that? How can they deal with it?" And the fact is you just do, because that's your life, that's what's given to you, and you have to keep moving forward. And I think that's what you're doing. I think by sharing your story and letting people know that this really does happen and how badly it impacts your life. It's not as easy as someone posts on your Facebook wall or a tweet about you and you can just delete it and be done with it. That's not it. It's way more than that. And people need to
Right.
understand that. And I think you're doing a great job and a great service for so many people by sharing what you're able to share. And that makes you a very strong person.
Well, thank you. I think I've figured out that I'm actually a little bit stronger than what I may have thought prior to all of this. And then on the other side, I think, oh my gosh, if I were even stronger, then none of this would impact me at all, and I wouldn't care, and blah blah blah. But I have a heart, and I have feelings, and I do care. And I think you I'm not, maybe there are people out there who really honest to God don't care. And I think it's easy to say, oh no, I don't care, or I wouldn't care, until it actually happens to you. Like some of the messages that have been sent to me, some of the stuff that she's done, some of the stuff that she sent to my clients, like that matters when my integrity is at stake, especially because I'm a virtual business owner and people place a great deal of trust in me, especially doing bookkeeping for people. Like the fact that I don't have my testimonial page showing on my website right now because I don't want her to contact the clients
Yeah.
on there, or that a client wants to put me on their staff page and I tell them, no, please don't, because I'd feel absolutely horrible if something happened. And so, like, all this social proof that helps establish trust in the business that I'm in, like,
You have to hide yours right now.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
And that's
And
not how
that
social media
pisses me
works. I,
off.
I agree. It pisses me off that you have to do it, right? Totally pisses me off because I know you're a really nice person. I know you're a hard worker and that, but I totally get why you're doing that because you have to protect your clients and future clients. And it sucks. I mean, this person is literally just messing up your life in so many ways. And it's just awful.
Yeah, it really is. And I think on Twitter, like you've been on Twitter for a long time and like quote unquote like the old
Yeah.
days. And the the kind part of me says when someone retweets you or something like that, like you thank them because that's just common
Right.
courtesy. And in the old days, I would thank people and I'd say thank you for the retweet, and then I'd start a little chit chat with them. And now I don't do that because I'm afraid, like, what's going to happen as a result of the chit chat. There's a woman that a friend of mine has to, or that used to be an old client of a client, and I used to do work on that person's account. Thank you, Joseph.
And Brett. Brett
Um,
also, he's got to go too. So Joseph and Brett.
uh,
Good. Thanks for
got it.
joining, Michelle, everybody.
Yes, thank you, Brett. And I hope you come back again and we'll get you on, like on one of the seats. So I know this woman from years ago because I used to do some work for her and stuff like that. And I love the show The Prophet. I
Me
absolutely
too.
love that show. It's like one of the ones you do. I don't. I want to like work with that guy for like
I
6 months
know.
and like download his entire
Yeah.
brain,
It makes
especially as a
that
bookkeeper
makes
and like
so
the
much
number part of
sense,
it.
right? When he spells it all out, I'm like, how do I not know this? I know.
Yep. And it just so happened so this woman owned like an online like women's magazine. And so it just so happened that one of the Prophet episodes was based on a company in Kansas City, Missouri. And her magazine like had this teeny little blurb in the Prophet. And I was like, oh my God, like there's her name is Kelly. I'm like, oh my God, like there's Kelly's magazine like featured
Wow.
like on the Prophet. And I thought this was like the coolest thing ever, right? Like I know this
Right.
person. So
Oh,
I
okay.
sent her a tweet and I was like,
This
hey,
isn't the
like,
bad person. This is someone good.
yeah,
Okay,
exactly. This is someone
I
good.
thought you meant it was the bad person. I was like, whoa, that would freak
No,
me
her
out.
name is
Okay.
also Kelly
All right,
though.
got it, got it.
Well, her real name is Leslie. So I send this old like client of a client a note just saying like, hey, like, and I sent this as a tweet, like, hey, like I was just watching like the Prophet episode on Lano Company and I saw your magazine like featured on there. Like that's really cool. And so her and I like started having this chit chat. She lives in Kansas City. I knew I was going to be spending a couple of days in Kansas City. So I said, oh, like I'm going to be coming to Kansas City soon. And I don't know what else I said, but I mentioned like I was coming to Kansas City. Well, then Crazy Pants takes it upon herself. Apparently, I don't know if this is true or not. This is what she told me, so we will presume it's true because she told me she did this. But she apparently contacted like the Kansas State Police to like let them know that they should arrest me, like if I come there. And then she started like tweeting all these organizations in Kansas City, like Visit KC, like these big organizations who probably just have some like intern like working their social media accounts, saying like, oh, like Michelle Mansion's a copyright thief. She exploits 3-month-old babies on porn. And I'm like, whoa, like all I'm saying is that I'm going to be in Kansas City for a couple of days. And as a result of me just congratulating someone else for having this teeny little blurb on the Prophets episode, like all this crap happens as a side result of me just being nice to someone. Like, damn me, like, why am I not?
And Michelle, that shouldn't happen to you. Just so you know, in case somebody didn't tell you yet, that should not happen to you. It's not fair. It's not right. It's not just. And it's not deserving for you at all. So, in case somebody hasn't told you that recently, you need
No, I haven't heard it in a while. Thank
and
you.
you need to know that, right? I mean, it's really really important, and that's the way. So you are a victim, Michelle, period. You are a victim. And there are so many victims of all sorts of different crimes that happen across the globe. And the victims are the ones who feel the guilt and the shame and all this other stuff. And what did I do? And it's so unfair. But that's the way the human brain works. Um, but I think that you need to know that it's not your fault. I'm getting a little choked up. Um, and it's because of my own personal experiences with this, not with the cyber stalking like you've had, but with some other things in my life. And I have felt that same kind of emotion that I know you must feel, Michelle. And it's taken me a long time to work through it. I'm still working through it with my therapist, and it just really sucks. It really really does. And it's not fair for that person to do all that and to have, and unfortunately they do have that much control over you because of what you do for a living, right? I mean, that makes it
Right.
even more pertinent,
Challenging.
right? It just throws it out there and it sucks. But Michelle, I am here to say I stand behind you. I stand behind you
Oh,
on
thank you.
Twitter. I tweet with you whenever I see you. I'm happy to be on Blabs with you. I'm happy to work with you. I am happy to do Facebook with you and all that other stuff because I think you are a really wonderful person and I'm glad that I know you. Tommy, don't,
Thank
not
you.
Tommy, don't. I
No.
know. And Tommy, I so know that you're being your funny Tommy self. But this is not the right time, Tommy. I want you to apologize for that right now and say, no, Michelle, I love you. So, and I understand. I know Tommy all too well, and I get it. Michelle, I'm going to jump off and let Janine jump in here and talk with you and
No,
stuff. But
I,
no, I'm here. I'm here in the background. I'm listening. But Michelle, I love you. You don't deserve it. Lots of hugs to you. And I'm always here for you whenever you need to rant, rave, cry, whatever you need to do. Just reach out. That's all you have to do. I'm here for you. Okay.
Thank you so very, very
Okay.
much,
Love you.
Robin.
Bye.
Love you too. Right, Janine, you're on the hot seat. Do you want to chat here with us? Anyone else, if you want to join, we still have two other open seats. You're more than welcome to. Welcome to Tess. Tommy came back. Mike the Monk, welcome to you too. Misty, I also saw you hop in, and Darlene. And Tess, I think I got you. If not, I apologize, and I have you for sure now. Robin, thank you. You're so sweet. Um, okay, so for those of you just joining, Janine, Tess, Tommy, I know you're coming back. You probably had to drive to your final location. Um, we were just talking a little bit about like supporting people who are going through something like this. Robin was talking to a little bit about like other people like saying like, oh, well, you could have done this, you could have done that. And one thing as Robin was talking that I thought about was a lot of like what she was saying, like where a lot of times people like try to blame the person who's like the victim. Even though like I'm not a big fan of that word, but essentially that's what it is. Kind of like similar with rape victims. Like the cops try to say like, oh, like what you were wearing, or oh, you were drunk, or oh, this, oh, that. And a lot of times, colleges or people in authority who have the ability to help the person who is raped, a lot of times they're trying to like put things off on the person that it's happened to. And really like just it's a rough situation for those who are in the position of being the person that the stuff is happening to. Um, I'm not quite sure like the name for the person that just jumped in, but I want to say welcome. Tommy, actually, you missed that a little bit. That actually was one of the things that I brought up while Robin was in the hot seat. Is That's one thing that I've had a lot of guilt with, and why I've like changed so much of like how I behave online, and how friendly I am online, because I feel a lot of guilt about the fact that the person stalking me goes after the people I care about. And I guess like to answer your question, like as being like the person on the other side of things, I think each person, like obviously, like in my case, I understand if people don't want to interact with me and stuff online because of that. Um, I haven't actually lost any friends because of that, like real friends. Have I probably lost some quote unquote like Twitter followers? Yeah, maybe. That's okay. If I lost you, Tommy, or Janine, or Misty or Marty, like any of you that like she's contacted, Lee, Tess, Janine, like if I lost you guys as real friends because of that, like I would feel really, really, really bad. But I'd understand for your own mental well-being, like if you don't want to like be entangled in it, like I obviously understand. And if it was something I could stop, by all means, like I'd stop it in a fucking heartbeat if I could. So I don't know, Tommy, does that answer your question? You still love me, right? Okay, good. Yes. I figured you did. Thank you. um, so I think we got that one. Um, anyone, anyone else? Other questions, thoughts? Janine, did you want to say something now that you're here, or are you just like
uh,
watching but not necessarily wanting to talk?
watching. 1 minute, watching. Oops.
Got it. Okay. Right. So I was only planning for this first session to be 30 minutes. I've went a little bit over, which I'm sure is like more than fine in Blab world. I'm sure when I learn more from Robin, I'll find out. So if anyone else has any other questions, like feel free to ask them. Otherwise, I probably I think for episode 2, because tonight's really was just about the fact that it can happen to anyone, and hopefully for those of you who kind of like joined at the beginning, you can kind of see like how like I didn't do anything to like bring this into my life other than just literally being nice and being myself on Twitter. And to kind of reiterate again to like the best thing you can really say to someone who's going through this um, as an adult is how can I support you? If you're a parent who has a child going through this, maybe the question's not so much how can I support you? Maybe it's how can I support you and we'll work on this together, or let's figure this out together. Because I think sometimes with children, we have to obviously do a little bit of the work for them versus just like leaving, them on their own to figure this out. For any of you who want more resources, I've read a ton of books the last year and a half on mental health, cyberstalking, things of that nature. My website where I have some of this stuff is stalkerbegone.com. I'm going to put that into the message box over on the right. There's a resources page on the site. I have a lot of the books that I've read and stuff listed on there. They all link through directly to Amazon. Xavier, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name. Have I found any clear ways to repel cyberstalking? No, and I don't know that honestly there are any ways to actually entirely prevent it from happening. I think the best that we can do as internet citizens is be incredibly cautious about what we are sharing online, what the privacy settings are for those particular posts that we make, or maybe even posts that our friends make. For example, I can control the privacy settings on my own Facebook posts. I cannot control the privacy settings for someone who tags me. And as an example, my mom about a year and a half ago was like super proud of my son because he had gotten this like prestigious like student of the month or something from school. And my mom made a public Facebook post where she included a picture of my son, all types of information about him. Pretty much the only thing she was missing for it was like his social security number and our street address. But she listed out the school he went to, where the school was located, his full name. She includes a photo of him, all kinds of stuff. And I immediately see this and I panicked, and rightfully so, because I obviously as a mother want to protect my child from anything, from anyone, but particularly crazy pants. And so I had to ask my mom, like either A, like call me and I'll help you change the privacy settings because you've just posted this for anyone in the entire world to see, or please delete the post. And for a brief period of time last year, I actually chose to shut down my personal Facebook account. My business Facebook page has been offline for almost a year. Maybe I'll bring it back, maybe I won't. But the reason last February why I chose to literally get rid of my personal Facebook is because I was so incredibly depressed and so tired of like trying to clean up after the fact that I didn't want to chance anyone inadvertently tagging me in a public status and accidentally giving stuff away. Kind of similar to the story I just shared with my mom. So is there a way actually to like repel cyberstalking? I don't think so. I think it all is like we have to be incredibly vigilant on what information we're sharing and who can see that. And I know that's not like, I wish I had a better answer. And I think there's probably lots of experts out there who would probably, wish we had a better answer too. So just be incredibly vigilant with your information. Thank you so much. That's a fantastic question. I'm so incredibly grateful that you asked that. So Janine asked over in the message box, do you think some posts attract people more than others, certain words, types of photos, or anything game? That's also a fantastic question, Janine. I don't know. In my personal experience, I do believe there's obviously some things that, based on the person who's harassing me, like it's certainly a trigger, for her. For example, if I were to post a picture of me and Will together, like, would she see that and that possibly really trigger her? Absolutely. Does she necessarily care if she sees like a photo of you and I together? No, probably not. So I think a lot of the answer behind that question is, what's the motivation for the person that's doing the harassment? And as I said, actually, before you got on, Janine, is that I don't know, like in my case, like what the motivation is. I don't know what she wants from me. I don't know how to make it stop. Obviously, I'm, in 3 years of communication from her and 1,200 some pieces of communication, without a doubt, I know there are certain things that would trigger her more than other things would. So is this Blab show, like, I know she's going to probably watch it. Like, is this going to possibly trigger her? It's absolutely possible. But for those of you who weren't on at the very beginning, I can't continue to live my life in fear of what she's going to do to me. And I'm choosing, after being silent essentially for 3 years, that I have to speak out, because the only way I can possibly help other people is if I choose to speak out. Xavier asked another question. Do you think the cyberstalking is related to real world experience? I'm not 100% sure what you mean by that. So feel free to like add in more if you want. I think maybe you're wondering like how cyberstalking relate, or maybe similarities between cyberstalking and real life stalking. Maybe that's what you're asking. I'm happy to answer it once I have a little bit of clarification on what you're asking. Aramini, hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. Welcome. Thank you for joining. Is it more likely that people who stalk online, is it more likely that people who stalk online are mainly people who know us in real life? Oh, that's a fantastic question. On my website, I believe, there's a link. So there's scientists, people who do all these studies and stuff in the world. They have done a lot of research on the types of stalkers. And the types of stalkers that they have done research on, primarily relates to the real in life, stalking people, not necessarily cyber stalkers, but certainly the types apply to cyber stalking situations. And so a lot, like statistically, a lot of the stalking that happens in real life is typically by someone who really knows you. And a lot of times starts as a result of a romantic relationship and a romantic tie. In cyber stalking, I think that the percentages are slightly lower. However, a lot of it still tends to result from that. If you just like Google, well, actually, hold on, let me find it, because this will actually be useful, like for the show notes and stuff. Here we go. I'm going to put this link in here. So here's in the comments, I just put a link in there for like stalking risk profiles. And there's one other one that's a good one that I'm going to throw in there too. I've done an enormous amount of research and stuff in an attempt to like understand better for myself, like what's going on and how to maybe get it away. Link to my site again. Absolutely, I can. Janine, I'm just going to take you off of video, since you don't want to like talk, but you can still watch. Okay, like you'll still be here. You just won't like be like on the video part. Okay, I see your note. Cool. Thank you. All right, so we answered. Link to the site again. We got that one. Let's see here. What else? If anyone has questions, you can do the slash Q in the chat, and that will bump them over to the question screen. Okay, I think we got them all. All right. So over in the comments, I put the links to the 2 different articles that give a good outline on what the different types of stalkers are. There's celebrity stalkers, the romantic ones, revenged people, like all types of stuff. Interesting reading if you're so inclined. And then I also in the show comments put my website again, but again, it's super easy to remember. It's stalkerbegone.com. For those of you who participated, asked questions, hopped on, gave props, all that stuff. I so incredibly appreciate this. I can't tell you how much it means to me, especially with this being my first show, and knowing that this is out there in the world now. Tommy's funny. That is not a real website address. Tommy, always the jokester. And for those of you who don't know, like I do know Tommy in real life. We used to both live like not in the same town, but in towns next to each other. So I have had lots of breakfast and dinner, and I've been over to Tommy's house before. So like Tommy, I really, really know this guy, and I've given him lots of hugs in the last couple of years. Which one is giving you the 404 error? Xavier, is it my website? Hang on just a second. I know my website name better not be going to a 404. Maybe it needs the www. Who knows? Let me just copy and paste it from the site. Oh, Tommy's link. Oh, that's because Tommy's being a goof. That's not a real website. See, Tommy, people take you seriously sometimes. All right, so thank you everyone for joining. I apologize for the little bit of like movements. I'm actually better lighting in the bedroom than the kitchen. So I'm sitting in bed, and when my knees move, it's making the video do that. Thank you again to like everyone who's on here. Tommy, don't say sorry. We all know that's like you're awesome like that. And again, thank you everyone. Next week, Wednesday, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. Love to have you join me again. Thank you.